أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا ربي لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسوله I bear witness there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. I am satisfied and content that Allah is my Lord, that Islam is my religion, and Muhammad was the messenger sent to us, and the fair messenger. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I've been asked to talk about the first Khalifa, the most beloved man to the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. There is actually no way that in years we can portray the magnitude and magnificence of this Sahabi, never mind in 1 hour. Everything about this man, every single thing about this man is miraculous. SubhanAllah. Truly he is the best of humanity after the Prophets. And he is so alike to the Prophet ﷺ. His characteristics are so similar to the Prophet ﷺ that it's truly miraculous. His name is Abdullah ibn Uthman. He's also known as Abu Quhafa. And he was called Abu Bakr because he would trade in camels, and he had a small lively camel called Bakr, and therefore they called him Abu Bakr. He's also known as Al-Atiq. The Prophet ﷺ gave him tidings, says, you are the Atiq from Jannah. And so وَسَيْجُنَّبُهَا الْأَتْقَى. This is talking about specifically Abu Bakr and anyone with his characteristics. But specifically it was mentioned for him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about it in the Qur'an numerous times. Numerous times. He was born 2 years after the year of the elephant, when Abu Bakr tried to destroy the elephant. He has many characteristics that are absolutely... You see, when you find someone who's very merciful, this is normal. But when you find someone who's merciful and strong, these two things are on opposites of the spectrum. When you find someone who is very insightful, but at the same time he's very decisive, he acts very quickly. Again, these two things are on opposite sides of the spectrum. Very, very, very rare to find someone with both of these things. Usually you have one person who's this, and then his friend is that, and together they balance each other out. But Abu Bakr had many of these opposite characteristics to each other in himself. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he said, I swear by the one whose soul whose soul is in his hand, i.e. Allah, لولا الصديق, if it wasn't for the Khilafah of Siddiq, i.e. Abu Bakr, لما عبد الله في الأرض. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not have been worshipped on earth because of what happened when the Prophet ﷺ passed away. Inshallah we'll go through that. So this is who we're talking about. So if the messengers are the ones that bring that receive the wahy and the risala, the message from the heavens, Abu Bakr is the one that safeguarded that once they finished their job. If it wasn't for Abu Bakr, لما عبد الله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not have been worshipped. His characteristics, he is gentle but also strong. He is merciful but very powerful. He's insightful but he acts with speed. He's humble and yet he's very great. Very simple man but very shrewd. Usually simple means he's a little, but he's very shrewd. Very logical but also very eloquent. Usually if someone's logical, they're not eloquent. And either eloquent or logical, these two things don't mix. He's very, very persuasive, but he's also sound of mind, very sharp. He's intuitive, and yet he's also far-sighted. Usually people are intuitive, they're in the moment, but he's far-sighted, a man with vision. And all of this, and he's not a prophet, subhanAllah. Once Muhammad ibn Ali is speaking to his father Ali, and he said, if I speak on his tongue, I said to my father, who is the best after the Prophet ﷺ? He said, Abu Bakr. This is Ali talking. He said, Abu Bakr. He said, then who? He said, Ali, he said, then Umar. Muhammad, his son, he says, I was afraid that if I asked him then who, he would say Uthman and not himself. So I jumped and I said, and then is it you, my father? And Ali, he said, I'm only a man amongst the believers, amongst the Muslims. So everyone was agreed that Abu Bakr was the best amongst them after the Prophet. Everyone was agreed. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَلَوْ كُنْتُ مُتَّخِذًا خَلِيلًا, if I were to take, Khalila means someone who's most beloved. You have Habib, and then Khalil is like, there are different levels. Khalil is the utmost. If I were to take a Khalil apart from Allah, i.e. if I were to allow myself to love anyone to such an extent, but apart from Allah, I would have taken Abu Bakr. But this is unbefitting. This level of love is only befitting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, وَلَكِنْ أُخُوَّةُ الْإِسْلَامِ وَمَوَدَّةُ. But enough is the brotherhood of Islam and the love between us. Abu Bakr, he used to love the Prophet ﷺ more than anything and anyone. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions in the Qur'an, وَالَّذِي جَاءَ بِالصِّدْقِ, and the one who came with the truth, i.e. Muhammad, وَالَّذِي صَدَّقَ بِهِ, and the one who trusted him, or the one who believed him. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُتَّقُونَ. Those are the ones who have taqwa. So here is mentioning Muhammad and he's mentioning Abu Bakr. Enough of status that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions someone in the Quran. But to mention him coupled with the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is another thing altogether. Ali is the one who says that this refers to Muhammad and Abu Bakr sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Once, out of his love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and out of his love of Islam, the Romans are going to fight the Persians. Ubay ibn Khalaf, he is not a Muslim, he says the Persians will defeat the Romans. He says, you are a liar, enemy of Allah. Abu Bakr says, you're lying. Ubay said, do you want to bet? So he said, okay. And he made a bet with Ubay ibn Khalaf that they would be beaten, but he made the bet within like 2 to 4 years. He went to the Prophet, the Prophet said, no. Bid'a Sinin could mean up to 7. So make the bet that within 7 years they would beat him. And he did, and he won the bet. When the Prophet ﷺ did Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, we all know that he really he opened his chest to the non-believers, and he really gave so much, and it was not equal terms. So if a believer left Islam and went to Makkah, he would stay there. But if a non-believer became a Muslim, he was not allowed, the Prophet was not allowed to keep him in Medina. This is one of the things that wasn't equal. And many other things. And all of the Sahaba were discontent. All of them except for Abu Bakr. And Umar, he got really angry. And he raised his voice and he said to the Prophet, aren't we on the truth? How can we, accept this daniyah, this loneliness for Allah and His religion and for the believers? And the Prophet, he said, this is the way that it will be. He said, but you promised us we'll do Hajj. He said, did I promise you this year? He said, no. He said, then we will do it in the years to come. So he goes, he tried with Muhammad. Who does he go to next? He goes to the man who's next in charge and who can maybe persuade Muhammad. The most beloved man to the Prophet. He goes to Abu Bakr. He says, Abu Bakr, what is this that you see that's happening? Aren't we on the truth? How can I take it to the logic? Abu Bakr, he said, this is the messenger of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never betray him. And he said, then there's 2 narrations. He said, either put your foot on the same stirrup, i.e. where the horse, you put your foot on the horse, as he does. Or he said, put your foot on the footprint of the Prophet, i.e. walk exactly as he walks. Exactly, not a millimeter off. Put your foot where he puts your foot. For this is the messenger of Allah. And then he said, okay. But he told us we would go to Hajj. That we would do tawaf. And he said, did he tell you this year? Look, he answers him with exactly the same thing. These two men, subhanAllah, their hearts are almost the same. He said, did he tell you this year? He said, no. He said, then it will happen. He was very gentle and very, very, very merciful. And there are many times where this was shown. The Prophet ﷺ once, he said to Abu Bakr, you are like Ibrahim. You are like Ibrahim. Ibrahim says in the Qur'an, وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي فَهُوَ مِنِّي وَمَنْ عَصَانِي فَإِنَّكَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Whoever follows me, oh Allah, He is with me, He is on my path. And whoever disobeys me, then you are most merciful, all forgiving, or forgiving, most merciful. Meaning, Ya Allah, forgive me. And he said, and you're also like Isa. He said, إِن تُعَذِّبُهُمْ فَهُمْ عِبَادٌ. If you punish or torture them, they are your slaves. I.e. the ones who disbelieve. وَإِن تَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ. And if you forgive them, فَإِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. You are the most powerful, dignified, the most wise. So here he's making a dua to say, oh Allah, forgive them. They are yours to do what you wish with, but forgive them. Both Ibrahim and Isa, Abu Bakr, you're like these two prophets. And Umar, he says, you are like Nuh. Yeah? He said, رَبِّ لَا تَذَرْ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ دَيَّارًا. Oh Allah, do not leave on earth any of these disbelievers. And you're also like Musa. When he says, رَبَّنَا اطْمِسْ عَلَى أَمْوَالِهِمْ وَاشْدُدْ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ فَلَيُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يَرَوْا الْعَذَابَ الْأَلِيمَ. Oh Allah, hold on to their wealth and make their hearts hard. They will never believe until they see the punishment. So here compares Umar to the two prophets who asked for punishment, and Abu Bakr to the two prophets who asked for forgiveness. Now, you all know the story with the Prophet. He comes back from Hirah and he's shaking and he says to his wife, I fear that someone has done black magic or jinn. So she says, never is this possible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never betray you, will never leave you to such a thing. And then she mentions 5 characteristics. She says, إِنَّكَ لَتَصِلُ الرَّحِمِ. You connect the lineage, the rahim, your family, you connect your family ties. وتحمل الكل وتكسب المعدوم وتقري الضيف وتعين على الغائب. And you carry the responsibility, you bear the responsibility of those who are mistreated and those who are weak. And you act as the attorney for those that have no one to help. وتقري الضيف, and you're very generous with your guest. وتعين على نوائب الحق, and you're always there for the matters of justice and truth. So 5 characteristics, she says this to the Prophet. Now notice, she doesn't respond with, oh, you're a nice guy, you pray, you fast, you've been doing i'tikaf for the last 6 months. No, she replies saying what he does with others, what his akhlaq are with other people. And the 5 characteristics. Silat al-Rahim, you take care of those that no one else takes care of. You're always there for the needy, very generous, and you're always there in matters of truth. Now Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, started to do dawah openly with the Prophet. Once there were 40 believers, he started doing dawah openly with the Prophet. He asked for his permission, he said you can, and he began to do it. So they beat Abu Bakr to a pulp. To a pulp. You couldn't recognize his face. And then he woke up and the first thing he said is, where is the messenger of Allah? Is he okay? After 3 days of being unconscious, by the way. His father went berserk. He wasn't a Muslim at that time. He went crazy. He said, we were about to start World War III. We were about to go and get revenge on these people because we thought you were dying. And the first thing you ask about is the messenger of Allah, is Muhammad. He said, where is Muhammad? And he kept asking, and the story carries on. Then he was given protection by a particular person. He said, just keep it quiet. I'll protect you, no one will harm you, but keep it quiet. Don't. You can pray, you can do this, but don't aggravate. So then they were going to beat him to a pulp again. So he took his bags and he took his things and he's leaving Makkah. Khalas, that's it, his life's under threat. What's he going to do? He's going to be Makkah. A man meets him and he says, Ya Abu Bakr, seems to me that you're leaving. Where are you going? And he said, my people have thrown me out. My people have thrown me out. He said, هذا لا ينبغي. Never is this befitting of a man like you. And then he mentions 5 characteristics. SubhanAllah, the exact same 5 characteristics that Khadija mentioned about the Prophet ﷺ. This man mentions Abu Bakr. People used to go to Abu Bakr before his Islam. If you're in debt to someone at those times, and it's similar now in different ways. If you're in debt, then you either go to slavery, you sell yourself to pay your debt, or you sell your wife, or your kids, or they come and take them. It's not really a sale, it's more of a, it's like today they knock on your door and they say, we've got bailiffs. Yeah. But it wasn't just property back then, it was your life, or the life of your children, depending upon your debt and how much of it was owed. People used to go to Abu Bakr and he would act as the guarantor. He would act as the guarantor for everyone in Quraysh. Even people that did not know him knew of him. And when they got into debt and it came to the bailiffs coming and asking for their life or whatever, they would go to Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr was to cure their debt. And he would say, if he does not pay, then it will be my debt. And the man leaves and he pays the debt, whatever long it takes him to pay the debt. But if he doesn't, Abu Bakr pays it off. This is before Islam. This is before him knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards times 10 minimum and to infinity to whom he wishes. Before this, Abu Bakr is making sadaqah. You see the gravity of this man? You see his stature in the eyes of Allah before Islam. Before Islam. This is truly a tremendous man. The wahi comes to the Prophet ﷺ. He runs to Khadija, shaking, Zamiluni, Zamiluni. She gives him 5 characteristics. She calms him down. He goes to see her cousin, and then he's told that he's a messenger, and this same Jibreel came to Musa and to Isa before him, etc. He then, the first man he speaks to is Abu Bakr. And the Prophet ﷺ bears witness. And he says, everyone hesitated. Everyone, they blinked. Actually, was what he said. Blinked. Brothers, yeah. Everyone blinked except for Abu Bakr. Everyone hesitated except for Abu Bakr. Everyone. And you have to stop and you have to ask yourself, how? It's not simple. You've been asked, someone's telling you he's a messenger of Allah. The likelihood that he's crazy, I've seen 3 people who said that they thought he was a messenger of Allah. Yeah. The likelihood that they think he's crazy is very high. But if he's not the messenger of Allah, but he's telling you to submit to the words of Allah, then there's all the ego that comes in. Do I want to submit to Allah? What about my interests? What about this? What about that? And Abu Bakr didn't. And I asked myself, how is this possible? But when you look at his characteristics, and he knew, and the Jewish people had told everyone, and Abu Bakr used to travel. He was a businessman, and he was known and he was loved, and he used to travel. And so he knew, he was in search. He was on the way of Ibrahim. But he knew that it had been polluted. So he's searching, he's when is the next messenger? What is the truth? So he hears and he knows that there's a prophet coming. Now put yourself in his shoes at the time. You know that the only man, so look, this is not arrogant by the way, this is just the truth. You know that the only man who is better than you on earth is Muhammad alayhi. Look, because these characteristics are not characteristics of a man who's, he never ever drank. He never prostrated even when he was taken by his father when he was 7, 8, 9. Told, these are our idols, these are our gods. He looked at the idol, he said, I'm hungry, feed me. Didn't do anything. He said, you can't even feed me? He said, okay, well I need some clothes, clothe me. He did nothing. He took a boulder, a stone, and he threw it at the idol and it fell in his face. He goes, okay, well so much for that. Just like Ibrahim alayhi. Yeah. Never did he worship an idol, never did he drink, never ever did he have fornicate, never did he fornicate or partake in adultery. Without any guidance from him. This was his nature. Yeah. This man wanted Allah before the guidance came to him. So when the guidance came to him, he had already accepted it. He was looking for it. So he had already submitted to the message before it arrived. And he knew that the vessel for the message had to be with someone who was amazing. And I can only imagine that the thought he had was the only person better than me is Muhammad alayhi. So when Muhammad alayhi comes and he says this, he accepts it. And you see the magnificence of this man, his stature, his magnitude. Can you see it? SubhanAllah. Talha, radiallahu anhu, he says, I used to know Abu Bakr. He was an easy man, beloved, gentle and kind with the people. And he was a businessman of integrity. This is very difficult to find. A businessman of integrity. Why is it difficult to find? Because a friend in Glasgow, Pakistani, he said to me, we have a saying, I don't know if it's true or not, it's content, we have a saying, you have a saying, that you do not really know tawakkul of Allah until you open your own business. Yeah? I don't know what it is really in Urdu. But he said, you don't know until you open your own business, because you're not working for it, no one's giving you money. And so many people when they open the business, they forget that rizq comes from Allah. Whether you cheat or whether you're honest, the same thing will come. Don't forget this. And so they cheat and they lie, etc. So finding a businessman of integrity is very difficult. And we used to love his company. Why? Because of his knowledge of Quraysh and the lineage of the Arabs. He used to sit with someone and he used to look at them and he used to say, your nose is the nose of your grandfather who was married to such and you got her ears, and your great-grandfather had this quality and that quality, and he would never say anything bad about you or your lineage. And he used to make you feel like you came from the stock of kings. And so everyone used to love him. And he used to travel, he was a businessman. So he used to meet people and he documented the lineage of all of the Arabs. In his mind he knew who was who. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ took him to Madinah. Yeah? And whenever he would speak to the tribes, for example, when people came in to do the Hajj, and the Prophet would do dawah, they always used to take Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr, who is this guy? He would say, this man is the son of such and such, he likes this, but he dislikes that, don't mention that, just mention this. He used to know everyone inside out. So we're not talking here about a man who just prays and fasts. This he did, 100%. And he stayed away from sin more than any other man, apart from the prophets. But he was a useful man. He had skills that other people didn't have. He had so many skills. And you have to ask yourself, this is one of those things, how many skills do you have? And how many skills do you have that other people do not have? Or are you just a tag along? Are we just sheep? Or, everyone's learning programming, but you learn a specific program as well as what they're learning that no one else is learning. Maybe it will become useful. You don't even know. But you're on the path of mastery. You're just doing it for itqan, for the sake of perfecting and mastering the art. And that's it. Everyone else is doing, karate, you do karate and something else. Yeah? No need. You're never going to use it. It's enough to have one, but you're doing it just. Yeah? This was Abu Bakr. He had so many skills. He accepts Islam. Now again, I want you to put yourself in his position. On the fifth day, on the first day, what does he do? Those of you that know, what does he do on the first day of accepting Islam? What does he do, Lord? You don't know? The first day, he calls 5 people. He does dawah, he makes dawah to 5 people, and they accept. Now, for those of you that have done sales, for those of you that want to persuade your dad to get your car, yeah, or your mom to get your this or that, usually when you come to sell something, you have content. Yeah? When you come to speak to someone about Islam, what do you say? What do you say? This is the first day of Islam. Iqra. Yeah? Bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. The very few verses have been revealed. What does he say about Islam? How does he sell it? Do you understand? How do you sell it? And yet he brings 5 people into the fold of Islam. I said to you, this man, and so many things about him are miraculous. On the first day of his accepting Islam, he brings 5 people. And what do you say to these 5 people? So this now brings us to a very important question, before I tell you the names of these 5. Is it more important, and I've hinted already, so I'm cheap, but is it more important that the person you're doing da'wah with, that he loves you, and that his heart is compassionate towards you, and there's a mutual bonding, or that you're able to, Darwinism, creationism, this, that, all the Jedi mind tricks, yeah? And if he says this, I'm going to say that. What's more important? What's more important? And if you look now on Facebook or on this or that, all they're teaching is the rationale behind accepting Islam. So what if they ask you about the 4 wives thing? How are you going to reply? Or what if they ask you about, how come she can't have 4 husbands? How are you going to reply? And they're good replies. Yeah? But what's more important? So hands up, everyone has to put hands up. Hands up, who thinks that it's more important that people love you in order to make dawah? More important, not both. And hands up, who thinks that it's more important that you know how to answer when you're making dawah? Put your hands up. And who's asleep? Guys, you have to put your hands up. If you don't use your brain, you won't use your brain. So who thinks it's more important that the people that you're doing dawah with love you? And who thinks it's more important that the people you're doing dawah with, you're able to persuade them, and you're slick with your language and your logic? Okay. From this example, you can conclude that no, it's more important that they love you, that they trust you. What do you say to these 5 people? We're talking here of Uthman ibn Affan. He accepts Islam at the age of 28. Rich businessman of pedigree stock. Az-Zubayr ibn al-Awwan, 15 years old, and he accepts Islam. Look at the discrepancy of ages. So Abu Bakr, he gets on with the people similar to his age. Actually, he's 40 something. 38. And this is with the line. So Uthman is the oldest of these, and then 15 years old, Az-Zubayr. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, 17 years old. Talha, 16 years old. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, 17 years old. These people love and adore Abu Bakr, that if he told them exactly as the Prophet ﷺ, when he stood up on the mountain and he said, if I were to tell you that it's national security, and even though you can't hear the horses, and I tell you that there's an army of horses behind this mountain and you can't hear them, would you believe me? They said, we would believe you. You've never lied to us. If he, Abu Bakr, had said to these 5 anything, I flew yesterday, they would have believed him. Can you see how his characteristics are exactly so similar to the Prophet? These 5 are of the 10 that are given guarantee to Jannah. Khalas, he's going to go on holiday now, yeah? No. Day 2, he goes and he asks, oh, by the way, all of these people are from different tribes. Yeah? So he's not talking to his cousin. Yeah? Different tribes. So the only one from his tribe is Talha. And that's it. Ibn Ubayd. Second day, he gets Abi Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, he's 27, and Uthman ibn on the third day, Al-Arqam ibn Abi-Talib, who is this man? Do we know him? Dar al-Arqam, yeah? Where all of the classes used to be held. Look how much reward Abu Bakr has. He has just facilitated the university for all the Sahaba. Everything that is taught is on his name. 5 of the guaranteed into Jannah, everything they do is tallied equally, carbon copy for Abu Bakr. And he gets Abu Salama ibn Abdul Asad. And they are from Bani Makhzum, and these people are actually competitors with Bani Hashim. Are either competitors with the Prophet. His tribe and their tribe compete, hate each other. So these people must have loved him as an individual. What are you going to sell them? He tells us to be nice to the poor. He didn't say that yet. He tells us to do zakah. He didn't say that yet. He tells us to do silat rahim. He didn't say that yet. These ahkam are not revealed. He tells us that, what is it? Just La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. It's not really much of a sale, is it? What's the benefit? You go through the features and then you say, the car goes 120 miles per hour, therefore the benefit is, you get to feel cool. It looks a particular way, therefore people look at you. You give them a bit, what's the benefit? It's just a feature, La ilaha illallah Rasulullah, there's nothing. The benefit is Abu Bakr himself. Abu Bakr is telling you this. And then you believe it, and you accept it. We all know that his daughter was accused, Aisha, and she is the wife of the Prophet. Before this, once Amr ibn al-As, he comes back from an army, and it was a spectacular win, a difficult time. And he says to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, who is the most beloved man to you? Basically, who's the man? Yeah? I just did this. Show me some appreciation. Yeah? Show me some love. So he says, Ya Rasulullah, who's the most beloved to you? The most beloved. He didn't say most beloved man. Who do you love the most? He said Aisha. Because he did not stipulate gender. So he gave him the most beloved person. He said Aisha. He said, no, I mean the man. Say me. He said her father. He said, and then who? He said, then Umar. And he mentioned 3 or 4 names. And then Umar just went quiet. He said, khalas, man, keep answering it. I'm going to be what? Number 200. There's no point in asking. I'm supposed to be up top 5 or something. Khalas, I'll pass that. Let's move on. Abu Bakr went through such difficulty because of this. They had accused his daughter of adultery. Now, she's not just his daughter, she's the wife of the messenger. So it's not just any adultery, it's the biggest betrayal. She's betraying Allah and His messenger. That means the accusation is that she must be, astaghfirullah, hashallah, but this is why it's such a grave crime. You need to understand this. It means they're implying that she is the dirtiest of dirty. Because this is the messenger of Allah. Allah has given you the most handsome man, the most intelligent man, and a direct link with the heavens. So the accusation is beyond is beyond acceptable, well beyond, it's repulsive. Now one of the people that spread the rumor was related to Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr used to give him and his family wealth and money every single day. They used to live off him. They used to live off him. And so, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought from above the seventh heaven the ayat saying that she is pure and she had done nothing wrong, he said, Wallahi, I will never, ever, ever give this man another penny. First of all, he's betrayed me, just out of family relations, you stick with your own. But secondly, I'm giving him money. So, if you have no nobility, at least have some, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Okay? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sends an ayah specifically about Abu Bakr again. And He says, ولا يأتل أولو الفضل والسعة أن يؤتوا أولي القربى والمساكين والمهاجرين في سبيل الله. And let me explain to you the grammar. أولو الفضل, أولو is it sounds Urdu, doesn't it? But أولو is plural. Those of grace, fadl is grace or honor, like people are indebted to them. Yeah? So, grace and honor. And let not these people hold back, and the ones who have been given rizq, space in the rizq, lots of it, and you to ulil qurba, and to give those that are near in the relations, and the poor, and the muhajirin fi sabilillah, wal-yafu wal-yasfahu. Let them forgive and let them mend. ألا تحبون أن يغفر الله. Do you not love that Allah forgives you? If you forgive others, Allah will forgive you. But the thing here is, Allah does not say, tell the one of grace and honor. He says, tell those, and He's talking about one. Do you understand?
Yeah.
When the queen, she says, we, right? The royal we. Yeah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, He uses we. نحن قدرنا, we have decided, this is the royal we, meaning Allah is too, I would not be befitting. He's saying those about one individual. But obviously, we take the tafsir of the Quran, everyone, but this was revealed specifically, i.e., that we still apply the ruling to everyone, but this was specifically meant for Allah. Abu Bakr gets called a group. His grace, His fadl in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not that of one individual. Allah points at him as if he was a group. This alone, there's so many things, subhanAllah, so many things about Abu Bakr. Let's fast forward. Many, many things happened. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there was an incident once where things were very, very hard, and the Prophet was given a khutbah, and things were financially difficult, and a trade caravan came by. All of the Sahaba stood and started looking, and some of them were taken by the wealth, except for 12. 12 were not taken. Abu Bakr and Umar were of these 12. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then mentions later that there are some, whenever they see tijara or business or wealth, they look, they're distracted by it, etc., etc. So, Abu Bakr, are you convinced that this man is, do I need to convince you more? There's a lot of convincing to do, but not much time. I gave this same talk over 4 or 5, 6 weeks of Cameroon. So, and obviously he went with the Prophet ﷺ in Hijrah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions him in the Qur'an with that as well, etc., etc. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, he passes away, and Umar loses it. He takes a sword out. He says, anyone who says that he's passed away, I will cut his head off. He's gone to his Lord like Musa went for 30 days and he'll come back later. Ali just fell. Other people were knocked unconscious. People just crying, wailing. First of all, they loved the Prophet ﷺ. Secondly, they were given a significance. These nomads, they were pure in and of themselves, but they were fighting each other. They had 10 forms of zina that they called zawaj. It was twisted. They were burying their own daughters. And now they're leading the world. So now they are going and they are opening and freeing Rome and Persia, and they're sending letters to Egypt, and they're sending letters here, and they're sending letters there. All of this because of this one man, the Messenger of Allah, and that Allah had chosen them to be his friends, his Sahaba. And now he's gone. So the significance of them is, what are we without the Messenger of Allah? And now if what happens? If we get stuck, what happens? Who do we ask? And this is, I should have said this at the beginning, this is the significance of why we're studying the four imams, the four Caliphs. This is why, because the Prophet ﷺ, he said, have taqwa of Allah. And hold on to the Qur'an and His Sunnah and the way of the four rightly guided Caliphs. Or they mentioned four, he said rightly guided. Why? Because you will see after me ikhtilaf, lots and lots of differences. And this now began to happen. So Abu Bakr, he was away and he came back, and everyone else was distraught. He walked past and he went into his daughter's room and he found the Prophet and he held him and he kissed him and he read verses of the Qur'an, and then he said, "Laqad ballaght, you have indeed done your, you've given us the message, you've given the responsibility, you've finished." And he praised him, etc., etc., and then he came in. And he said, whoever used to worship Muhammad, he has died. But whoever worships Allah, Allah is the eternal living. And then he read the ayah of the Qur'an, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ إِنْ قَلَبْتُمْ عَلَىٰ. Muhammad is just like the messengers before him sent you. If then he dies or is killed, I mean, so what if he's killed? Does it make a difference? If a human being kills him, is there any, the significance of this is, do you then turn back to Jahiliyyah the way that you were before? All of the Sahaba, all of them say, as if we had never heard this ayah before that day. The composure of mind. Remember I told you he was, before he accepted Islam, but why did he not hesitate? Because he was looking for the message. He had already submitted to the message before it arrived. And so now that the messenger has gone, but he had submitted to the one who sent the messenger. That's why he didn't hesitate. He said, yes, you are the vessel that's come from Allah. Everyone else submitted to the vessel about Allah. And so he had composure of mind. Khalas, it was revealed. And now, no one loved him more than Abu Bakr. He had that composure. And they buried him. And then he gave his speech. He says, I am not the best of you, etc., etc. All of a sudden, what happened was that the tribes in Arabia, they thought that zakah was a tax. They thought that zakah was an administrative tax, okay, that was applied by the Prophet as a ruler and not as the Prophet. And this is not true. Zakah is due, حق المال, is due because of the wealth. If you have a 2-year-old, but he has the nisab and the conditions are met, he still has to pay zakah, even though he's 2, he's not responsible, because the wealth itself should be purified. It's not to purify the person giving the wealth, though it does that as a side effect or a consequence, but the wealth itself should be purified. And this is the dalil, the Abu Bakr. When they abstained, he said, Wallahi, we will fight them until they give us up. Now he is so gentle, but he's the only Sahabi that stood up, and all of the Sahaba, they said, Wallahi, he is like a lion. And one of the men, one of the tribes, they said, they call him Abu Bakr, but really he is Abu, and they mentioned a camel that is weak. Yeah? And then a man said, Wallahi, you will find that he is Abu, and he mentioned a camel that was very strong. He said, he looks that way, yeah? Because he walks like this, he's very, very skinny. He's got braids in his beard. He's not, you wouldn't think twice just punching him in the face and walking away, for no reason. He said, Wallahi, you will see if you do this to him, that you will see he becomes a lion. And all of the Sahaba, even Umar, I don't know how many times in the seerah of the Prophet, he said to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, let me chop him in half. Ya Rasulullah, let me chop him. The guy would come in, he'd look at you wrong, Ya Rasulullah, let me chop him in half. For nothing, Ya Rasulullah, let me chop him in half. Let me chop him in half. This happens, Umar turns around and he says, we should let them off. We're too weak right now, let us consolidate, and then slowly we'll go back, and then we'll ask them for zakah. Even Umar. And this is why Abu Hurairah started with this. He goes, Lawla, if it were not for Abu Bakr being the Khalifa, ma ubid Allah. Allah would not have been worshipped on earth. And they said to him, how can you kill another believer? Didn't he say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah? He said, yes, but La ilaha illallah bihaqqiha. i.e., there has to be truth in the utterance. I say La ilaha illallah, and there's a fard that you're not doing. Yeah? And this is wide scale, not just one individual. Because there was an individual who didn't pay zakah, and the Prophet never accepted that. And then he repented, and Abu Bakr never accepted it. And he went to Umar never accepted it. Because this man was poor, very, very poor. And he asked the Prophet, he made dua, Allah gave him so much wealth. And then he wouldn't pay zakah. So the Prophet said, we're not going to accept from you regardless of what you do. And the rest of the Khulafa did the same thing. This man is ridiculous. So he stood alone and he said to them, Wallahi, I will fight all of the Arabs myself. And you guys can sit here and consolidate on you. And then Umar, he says, when we saw the fire within this man, and that he was single-minded, we knew that Allah had unclogged his chest, had made his chest firm. And we knew that this is something from Allah, and we followed him. SubhanAllah, amazing. Now this man, compare this, he's still Khalifa. He's still Khalifa. He's very easygoing. So a man from, and he just accepted Islam, but he wasn't of the strong believers. And he went to ask for money. So he's asking for land, etc. Abu Bakr said, have it. Umar found out, he said, come, give me the piece of paper that says this is your land. And he ripped it out. He said, who gave this to you? He said, Abu Bakr. He goes, I'll go speak to Abu Bakr. Yeah. Abu Bakr is the Khalifa. Abu Bakr is the same man who was about to fight all of the Arabs and did. And Umar goes up to him and goes, what are you doing? He goes, this is the sunnah of the Prophet. He would give away land, and mu'allafati qulubuhum, those that are weak of iman, or they're about to accept Islam, we give them land in order to nullify any enmity, potential enmity between them. He said, yeah, that was when we were weak. That was when we had nothing. Now we rule the world. I tore them up, and he says, take it. So now this man who comes after, he's trying to play psychology. He goes, so who's the Khalifa? You or him? Yeah? He's trying to, stir. So who's the Khalifa? You or him? Abu Bakr said, Wallahi, if he wants it, it's his. This is the same man. Yeah. In matters of truth, he is a liar. In matters of administration, where both opinions are true, but it's just ijtihad, administrative ijtihad, then he doesn't matter. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. There are many significant foretellings of the Prophet that he should be the Khalifa. Many. And when they were discussing with the Ansar of Madinah, and Umar, very shrewd, he said, remember when he said that he's from Quraysh, it should be from Quraysh, etc., and they accepted. and the Khalif was given to Allah. I will end with what he says on his deathbed to Umar radiallahu anhu. These words, if they were written in diamond, never mind gold, if they were written in diamond or dark matter, which doesn't really exist, they haven't proven it exists, but it's supposed to be the most expensive thing, still it would be too cheap. He says, have taqwa for Allah. Have taqwa. For Allah are deeds in the morning, and for Allah there are deeds at night. And know that Allah does not accept a nafila, a nafl, until the fard has been fulfilled. Very, very, very important. People running in Ramadan, they've missed Isha, and they know they're going to miss Isha, and they don't care. And they're running to the front row and pushing and fighting so that they can pray Tarawih. The one rak'ah of Isha in Ramadan is more than all of Tarawih and more. One rak'ah. So Allah does not accept the nafilah until you have done. Now it's accepted because you can do it at home. But one rak'ah of Isha with the jama'ah outperforms the whole night. The whole night. And Fajr and Isha as if you've prayed the whole night. As well as the Fard of both. And the heavy scales in the Day of Judgment are for those that follow the truth, regardless of how heavy the truth is. Regardless of how difficult it is. And justice it will be that the scales are heavy for those that carry the truth. And light scales are for those that follow falsehood. Because it will be easy and so will be light. And Allah describes the people of heaven by their best deeds, and He overlooks their faults. When you read the Qur'an, when Allah describes people of heaven, He talks about them as if they were angels, as if they never did anything. And when I remember them, I fear that I will not be one of them. This is the most beloved man to Allah after the messengers. The most beloved man. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. The Messenger of Allah, he says this happened to two people. He says to Khadija, Ya Khadija, رضي الله عنها, Allah is giving you salams. And she says, give salams back. Imagine, subhanAllah. And with Abu Bakr, he says, Allah is saying that He is pleased with you. And He's asking you, are you pleased with Him? What is this? What is this? And yet he is wondering, he is scared as to whether or not he is one of the people of heaven. Look at his piety. And Allah describes the people of hell by the worst of their action and does not accept the best of their actions. All haba'an and mathura, it's all nothing anyway because they don't believe in Allah. And when I read and remember them, I pray not to be of them. A servant needs to be expectant and cautious, truly striving for Allah. If you follow my advice, death won't be your worst enemy and you'll never outrun it anyway. Meaning, even if you don't follow my advice, you don't have a choice. This was his message to Umar. He had chosen Umar as the Khalifa. And he went around and he asked, made sure everyone was happy with him, etc., etc. Talha was not happy with him. Talha was Ameen al-Ummah. He said, you are going to put upon us the harshest of us. He's going to break us. He'll break us. And he said, Wallahi, he got angry. He was in his deathbed and he was ill. And Talha said, Wallahi, I will complain about this to Allah. And he jumped up. And he said, you're threatening me with Allah. Allah have chosen the best of the people for you. And when I am away, you will see that Umar will be gentle with you. And this is exactly what happened. This is exactly what happened. There's too much more to say about Abu Bakr. I'm going to end there. We've been speaking for an hour. We've got questions and answers if anyone has any. Jazakumullah khairan.
Jazakallah khair. To the Ustad I knew the Ustad was not well actually, and before he actually came up, and I've got to thank him for actually coming up all the way from Birmingham and actually delivering a talk as well, having the flu. I'm sure it wasn't easy, and Allah reward him abundantly for that, inshallah. If anybody's got any questions on the topic, I think the life of Abu Bakr, as we've just kind of heard a few glimpses, is not. It's not for an hour, and I think most of our halaqahs are not for an hour, unfortunately, they're for a lot longer. And that's why I said at the beginning that it's up to us to learn more about Abu Bakr. There's volumes of books written on Abu Bakr As-Siddique, and I encourage you to go and read up a bit more, inshallah, and find out about this great man, subhanallah. If anybody's got any questions, so what do you start? Yes. If sisters have got any questions as well, they can text me. They can't text me actually because my battery's gone down. So if they have got papers, inshallah, if they want to send them up, they can do, and we'll take those questions. If there are any questions from the brothers, inshallah, we will take them.
You mentioned towards the beginning about the verse in which the Prophet Abu Bakr has done, I mentioned.
Yes.
Could you just repeat that for me, please?
والذي جاء بالصدق, so the one who came with the truth, i.e. Muhammad, والذي صدق به, and the one who believed him. صدق means found him truthful, i.e. Abu Bakr. أولئك هم المتقون, those are the ones. And when they were doing hijrah, he said, and when he said to his friend, لا تحزن, do not worry, Allah is, what do you think of true? Allah is with you. And the other verses, but those two verses are him and the messenger mentioned.
If you could mention the incident of Brother Saul, what happened there, and how they felt, and how the Sabina was, sent down to the hearts of both people.
So the first question was just to repeat the ayah that I mentioned before. This one, if I could give a bit more detail about the incident of the hijrah and what happened. First of all, the Messenger ﷺ had told no one. He had told no one when he was leaving. Now Abu Bakr did this amazing thing where he waited and he found the best two camels to buy, but he hadn't bought them, he just put them on. He reserved them, so to speak. And he got ready to leave at any minute. So this fard, kifaya attitude of the messenger might ask me to go with him. I'm going to make everything ready. What does it mean to make everything ready? You put your business on pause, you blah blah blah, everything ready. And then when he came at a time and he said to Abu Bakr, Ya Abu Bakr, you're my journey companion. Aisha says, I have never seen a man cry from joy before this day. So happy to be chosen. They're on the way. Abu Bakr is running in front of him just to, then he's running to his right, then he's running behind him, he's running to his left. The Prophet is just reading the Qur'an, just chilling, just walking normally. Abu Bakr is freaking out, side to side to side. Abu Bakr, what's wrong with you? Ya Rasulullah, I go to the front in case someone's going to hit you with an arrow, and then I realized they could hit you from behind, so I walk behind you. Then he said, calm down, it's okay. And then an incident happens and a man's on a horse and he's coming, Ya Rasulullah, he's going to come closer to us. The Prophet makes a dua, Oh Allah, get rid of him however you wish. And it's a long story. They get into the cave and they hide, and they're on the footsteps. They hide and they come, and the kuffar are looking into the cave. And he whispers to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, our heads are where their feet are at, where their slippers are at. If they just look down to their feet, they would see us. And then he says to them, Ma ba'aluk, what do you think of two? Allah is their third. i.e. not to worry. And Allah mentions this in the Qur'an as well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings down the peace on their hearts. Abu Bakr was, when he got in, he would put his finger and his feet and his knees in whichever holes he found, in case a snake would come up, or a scorpion, etc. And the Prophet slept on his thigh, and he was bitten by a scorpion, and it was poisonous. And he did not want to wake the Prophet ﷺ. So he stayed quiet, and then his legs started to shake with the pain, and the poison started to do its effect. And he tensed it so that it wouldn't shake. And then the tear fell on the Prophet's face and woke him up. He's totally like, he's holding on as much as possible so the Messenger of Allah could sleep. And he gets up and he wipes it with his saliva or with his tear or something, I can't remember. I think with his saliva. But this man, subhanAllah, he loved the Messenger of Allah more than he loved himself. And he loved Islam more than he loved life. Truly, truly, truly spectacular.
Jazakallah. Any further questions before we wrap it up?
You mentioned the magnificent character. Where does one start in looking to emulate such a personality?
With the 5 characteristics that the man mentioned about him that were equal to the Messenger of the Prophet. When Khadija said to him, Allah will never betray you, she mentions these 5 characteristics. The first is that you do silat al-rahim. The second is that you take care of the weak and oppressed. The third is that you feed the needy. The fourth is that you are always stand up for justice and the causes of justice, whether Muslims or non-Muslims, so on as justice. And the fifth, you say very generous with his hosts, with his guests. Be a generous host. These are the things. These are very proactive things. And these, when you're doing these things, either you acquire, if you're doing them if you're busy for the sake of Allah, if you're busy doing dawah, then sometimes the dawah gets the best of you. But only for one reason, that you forget that you're doing it for the sake of Allah. So you get busy, and then all of a sudden you get angry. And if things don't get done right, you get angry, you shout at people, you this, you that. So it affects your character in a negative way. Because you're carrying a load, but you forget that you're carrying it for Allah. But if you were to remember that you're carrying it for Allah, then your character will be beautified and purified by the load that you're carrying. Does that make sense? So when you push yourself for the sake of Allah, you leave your comfort zone for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The pain is only a sign of what you need to let go of. Yeah? And so you purify yourself of that. So start with those 5 things. And the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned silat al-rahim. He says, whoever wants to live longer and have more wealth and have better health, then let him do silat al-rahim. And he mentions silat al-rahim is not when you stay in touch with those cousins and uncles who like you. You know, they stay in touch with you, you stay in touch with them. Silat al-rahim is to stay in touch with the uncle who stole your inheritance. Yeah. Who doesn't call back, couldn't care less. That's silat al-rahim. So it comes first actually of the 5 things, and then the other 4 after that. If we start with those, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will change us.
Jazakallah here. I'm not sure if there's any questions from the sisters, but I think we'll wrap it up there. Nearly 10 to 9, inshallah. I think I'll be collecting all the sheets. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah here. Next week, first of all, I'd like to thank Ustad for coming up today, alhamdulillah, starting us off on this new series. Inshallah, I'm giving a really beautiful talk on Abu Bakr As-Siddique, and inshallah next week will be another great man, fearsome Umar ibn al-Khatthab, and inshallah by Ustad Abu Sundus. Now, Ustad Abu Sundus, some of you may know of him, may have heard him speak. He's been here before. It's been a few years though, but inshallah he's another Arab of Libyan heritage, inshallah, so he'll be coming up and delivering that talk. Next week Isha is at 7:45. So, sorry, 7:30. Yeah, 7:30. It's moving on 15 minutes. So, unfortunately, it's getting later, and maybe even for the youngsters, it's getting a bit too late. But we're going to stick with this until the end of this series, which the last talk is going to be 8 o'clock in the first week of March. and inshallah we'll change times for after Maghrib, inshallah, for the next series. So Jazakallah khair again. May Allah give you, may Allah bless you, give you health, inshallah, and a safe journey home. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا وأنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.